Okay, welcome back. We got another book review. I just knocked out another book in the last 2 days. Decided to go a different direction, right? The last few books I read were Castalia books. They were books that had to do a lot more with history, theology. Decided to grab one of the paperbacks off my shelf that needed to get read. A little bit more of a modern concept. I actually found out about this book from Social Galactic. There was someone who posted an interview on YouTube between the author of this book and a podcaster. I forget his name. I'll find it. I'll put it in the description of this video. But basically, this guy, Jason Kohne, wrote a book about, quote, going free. And essentially that is, what he means by that is dropping all forms of white guilt that you might be holding upon yourself. I did a lot of notes on this book. I'll tell you what I conclude at the end of this video, but let's get into it. First of all, Kohne's an interesting guy. I was trying to figure out where I think he is on the socio-sexual hierarchy. I honestly don't think he's Alpha, Sigma, Bravo. I don't think he's any of those. There's something about the way he came off in that interview which was lower tier, let's say. He might be a Gamma, maybe a Delta, but I don't put him up in the higher tiers of the hierarchy, which is not a bad thing necessarily. It doesn't mean don't listen to the guy. But yeah, he didn't come off as a higher tier male to me, but look, I'm a male, right? So I can only judge other men on the hierarchy based on what I know. You might want to ask a woman who watches his video what she thinks, because she'll be a better indicator of where he is, if you care. It's not super important. I got a bunch of notes here. You can look on the screen if you want, but I'm just going to go down the list. Basically, it's a very short read. If you are not interrupted, you could easily knock this out in a morning. It's like 170 pages. The last 25 pages are index and glossary, and the pages don't always take up. Like the words don't even take up all the pages sometimes. Like some pages are super short, and the text isn't super small. So yeah, it's a very quick read. I liked how he described the conscious and subconscious minds. Like, essentially, he uses that to tell us how much anti-white propaganda has been ingrained into our subconscious since we were very small. For me personally, it was more of like a refresher and a way to learn some new rhetoric, a way to learn some better retorts, right? He does give you a lot of rhetorical examples on how to fight the stupid things you hear all the time that are very much anti-white. He completely defines everything as anti-white. He has a whole section about not separating people into Marxists, communists, liberals, neocons. All of those things are anti-white. For me personally, look, I was already there. You won't find a drop of white guilt in me anywhere. So this book was cool for me in the fact that I learned some new rhetorical things. I like that it's on my shelf because one day I am sure I will stumble upon someone who probably needs to go free, and I might be able to push them over the edge with this book. When I think about it, a lot of liberals, well, I should say a lot of anti-whites are mentally ill. They're mentally suffering because they have so much white guilt. I really hope that this book sitting on my shelf could help some people in case my kids, ever go that route. I'll do my best to keep them out of bad schools or even homeschool them myself, but in America, some other kid will try to influence them down that path, so I'm glad I have the book on my shelf. For me, I was already well unplugged, well into a physical and spiritual self-improvement. You can't guilt me about my European history, my Christianity. I love it. I love my people. You can't do it to me, but for someone else, it would be very good. He does talk about something called meme pathogens. Not just that, he has like a ton of little abbreviations and definitions, which is why he had to put a glossary in the book. Meme pathogens are like subtle ways that we've fallen for anti-white propaganda, and I found one that actually worked on me. He gave me a really good example. I forget if it's State Farm or Allstate. One of those insurance commercials has a character called Mayhem. But Mayhem is such like a funny, suave actor that you don't realize what he's doing. He's funny, right? Like he causes people's car to crash and stuff like that. and he's like this white guy in a suit, but basically he is a white guy in a suit. The propaganda there is that white guys are evil. I didn't even see it with that one. When it comes to all the other TV commercials I see where like there are gay couples and interracial couples and like everything where the white guys with the white girls with the black chick or black dude, like I see right through that shit. But that insurance commercial got me for sure. So he was spot on that one. This book doesn't mention anything about the Greco-Roman legal tradition or Christianity. Not once does it talk about our Christian roots in the West, which I thought was kind of weird. But at the same time, was it necessary to even talk about it? I don't know. But I do assume that this guy is pretty secular. Maybe someone on Social Galactic or here on YouTube can fill me in on Kohne. I think it's Kohne. Jason Kohne is how you say his name, the German way. Maybe he is a Christian, but he certainly does this book from a secular point of view. This book so far has not mentioned that interracial propaganda and commercials doesn't work. Yeah. So like he talks about, looking at commercials, interracial propaganda and commercials. I'm a little bit more white-pilled than he is in this. Like that shit doesn't work, guys. Interracial couples are incredibly rare. I mean, you go to the Bay Area, the most liberal part of California, of the United States of America, and they're still pretty rare out there. So, like, the TV's been pushing that crap on us for years. It's not working. I'm a little bit more white-pilled than him, but he does talk about that in commercials. He refers to them as the regime. We might call them the cabal. We might call them the Jays. We might call them the deep state. He calls it the regime. Not once does he bring up the JQ. Not once does he mention that all the people of the regime at the very top are of a particular religion that is super rare, super low population in the United States, like 1% to 2%. Doesn't talk about it. However, he does mention a bunch of groups that are protected, excluding whites, of course. And he puts the Jays at the very top of that list. So I think he's there, and he just didn't want to name it in his book. And the reason I say that is because during the interview I saw him do, he mentioned trying not to appear like those guys, the N's, the NAZs. His whole thing is like, we want to do this from a way that doesn't make us look like NAZs, that doesn't make us look like the white S's from the South, like, because otherwise you'll scare people off. Like, that's his whole thing. So he wrote this book from a perspective of not seeming like the NAZs. But I do believe he's probably there. Yep. He does talk about gatekeeper conservative media, so I like that. He refers to whites as Westmen, which I like, dude. I actually think that's very cool. I might actually start using that. Like, I'm not just white, I'm a Westman. That's like a pretty cool one. What else? I'm going to stop there with like spoilers. All in all, I think it's a good refresher for people like you and me who are well already there. But to someone who is of the more like traditional conservative, like, oh, racism is so bad, like the people who think that Tim Scott rebuttal from last week was really good, they need to read this book. People who think that Tim Scott is weak and stupid, probably all good, but those Tim Scott people, they need this. The book is very interactive. It does challenge you to write down a lot of things. For me, I did it just to go through it. Didn't really necessarily, care. There was one meme pathogen that I also fell for, and that is like, oh, you think you look better with a tan. That's anti-white. And I was like, well, yes, but I'm Italian. So like my olive skin, when it's a little brown, it does look good. I don't care. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Definitely a good pickup. It's $10. It's $10 on paperback. It's $8 on Kindle. He's got some other books that he kind of plugs at the end. For $10, you can't go wrong. Would I get a $200 version of this wrapped in leather? No, I would not. But yeah, no, I think it's good. And I think a lot of people on SG have been talking about it lately. So here's my review. And I believe the next one is Logos Rising because it's coming in the mail tomorrow. So I'm going to hold off till I get it, and we'll do a review of that next. All right. Have a good one.